Have you ever felt stuck? Like you're in a situation, a job, a relationship, or even just a conversation, and every part of you is screaming to leave, but you just can't? You tell yourself, just a little longer, or maybe it'll get better. But what if the most powerful thing you could do in that moment is simply to walk away? Today, I want to share 3 stories about the incredible life-changing power of turning around and leaving something behind. These aren't stories about giving up. They're stories about choosing yourself. Our first story is about a man named Leo. Leo was a brilliant graphic designer, truly one of the best. He landed what he thought was his dream job at a prestigious marketing agency. The projects were exciting, the clients were huge names, and the salary was great. But from day one, something felt off. His boss, a man named Marcus, was a master of subtle manipulation. He would praise Leo's work in front of clients only to tear it apart in private, calling it uninspired or amateur. He'd set impossible deadlines and then act surprised when Leo had to work all night. Leo's friends and family saw the change in him. The vibrant, creative guy they knew was becoming withdrawn, anxious, and constantly exhausted. He started doubting his own talent, something he had been so confident in before. He kept telling himself, "This is a top agency. I need this on my resume. I just have to be tougher." He spent 2 years in this cycle, his mental health deteriorating with every passive-aggressive email and backhanded compliment. One evening, after being publicly humiliated by Marcus for a tiny, insignificant error in a presentation, Leo was packing up his desk, feeling lower than ever. His phone buzzed. It was a message from an old college friend, someone he hadn't spoken to in months. The message was simple, a picture of a painting they had worked on together years ago, with the caption, "Remember how much fun this was? You were born to create, man." Something inside Leo snapped. It wasn't a dramatic explosion, but a quiet, firm realization. He looked around the sterile, cold office, at the award plaques on the wall that felt meaningless, and then back at the picture on his phone. He wasn't born to be belittled. He wasn't born to feel small. He was born to create. The next morning, Leo didn't go into the office. He emailed his resignation. He didn't write a long, angry letter. He just wrote that he was leaving for personal reasons, effective immediately. He walked away. It was terrifying. He had no other job lined up. He had bills to pay. But for the first time in 2 years, he felt a sense of peace. He felt free. Walking away from that toxic environment was the catalyst for everything that followed. He started freelancing, and word of his talent spread quickly, this time without a toxic boss filtering it. Within a year, he had built his own small, successful design studio. He was hiring other designers and creating a workplace that was supportive, collaborative, and joyful, everything his old job wasn't. Leo learned that walking away wasn't quitting. It was choosing to build his own table when he was no longer welcome at someone else's. Our second story is about a young woman named Clara. Clara was deeply in love with a man named Ethan. On the surface, they were the perfect couple. They had a beautiful apartment, a shared group of friends, and they seemed to have everything figured out. But behind closed doors, things were different. Ethan wasn't physically abusive, but he was emotionally draining. He was possessive, jealous, and incredibly insecure. He'd check her phone, question who she was talking to, and get angry if she wanted a night out with her girlfriends. Clara found herself constantly walking on eggshells, managing his moods, and shrinking her own life to make him feel secure. She stopped pursuing her hobbies. distanced herself from male friends, and her world became smaller and smaller, centered entirely around Ethan's happiness. She loved him, and she kept hoping he would change. They would have huge fights. He would promise to be better, to trust her more, and for a week or two, things would be calm. Then the cycle would start all over again. The turning point came during a weekend trip they took for their anniversary. They were supposed to be celebrating, but Ethan spent the entire time in a sour mood because a male waiter had been too friendly to Clara. That evening, sitting in a beautiful hotel room overlooking the ocean, Clara felt utterly alone. She realized she wasn't in a partnership. She was a caretaker for someone else's insecurities. She was pouring everything she had into a bucket with a hole in it. She looked at Ethan and said quietly but firmly, "I can't do this anymore." The fight that followed was the worst one yet. He begged, he cried, he promised he would change for real this time. It was tempting to believe him, to fall back into the familiar pattern. But Clara held on to that moment of clarity. She knew that his change had to come from within him, not from her sacrifices. She packed a small bag and left the hotel that night. She walked away, not just from the hotel, but from the relationship. The weeks and months that followed were incredibly difficult. She was heartbroken. She missed the good times and questioned her decision 100 times a day. But slowly she started reclaiming her life. She reconnected with friends. She took up painting again. She went on trips by herself. She started to remember who she was without him. Walking away from that relationship was the hardest thing she ever had to do, but it was also the most profound act of self-love. She learned that you cannot fix someone else, and you shouldn't have to shrink yourself to make someone else feel big. True love doesn't confine you. It liberates you. Our final story is a bit different. It's about a group, a community, and a man named Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison was a beloved high school history teacher who had been teaching at the same school for over 30 years. He was famous for his engaging lectures, his kindness, and his unwavering belief in his students. He had inspired generations, but over the years the school administration changed. A new principal came in with a rigid, data-driven approach to education. Creativity was replaced with standardized testing. Budgets for arts and humanities were slashed. Teachers were treated like cogs in a machine, evaluated on metrics that had nothing to do with genuine learning or inspiration. Mr. Harrison tried to fight it. He spoke up in meetings, he wrote letters, he tried to reason with the new administration. He wanted to preserve the soul of the school he loved, but he was met with indifference and told to get with the program. He watched as his colleagues became demoralized, and the joy of teaching was slowly extinguished. He felt like he was failing his students by being part of a system he no longer believed in. One day, after a particularly soul-crushing meeting where teachers were reprimanded for not teaching to the test effectively enough, Mr. Harrison made a decision. He was only a couple of years away from his planned retirement, but he couldn't do it anymore. He couldn't stand in front of his students and pretend that this system was for their benefit. The next week, he announced his early retirement. He walked away from the career that had defined his entire adult life. It wasn't a protest in the traditional sense. It was a quiet, personal stand, but its impact was monumental. The news of his departure sent shockwaves through the community. Students, both past and present, and their parents were outraged. They started asking questions. They organized. They flooded school board meetings demanding to know why a teacher like Mr. Harrison felt he could no longer teach in their school. His act of walking away became a powerful symbol. It exposed the problems in the system in a way that his words in meetings never could. The public pressure forced the school board to re-evaluate the principal's policies. While Mr. Harrison never returned to the classroom, his departure started a movement that led to significant, positive changes in the school, restoring some of the focus on genuine education over metrics. Mr. Harrison learned that sometimes walking away isn't about saving yourself, but about making a statement so powerful it can save something bigger than you. His final lesson wasn't about history. It was about integrity. 3 different people, 3 different situations. Leo, who walked away from a toxic job to reclaim his creativity. Clara, who walked away from a draining relationship to rediscover herself. And Mr. Harrison, who walked away from a broken system to stand for his principles. Their stories teach us that walking away is not a sign of weakness. It's a declaration of self-worth. It's the courage to say, I deserve better. It's the wisdom to know when something is broken beyond repair. And it's the strength to choose an uncertain future over a certain misery. So if you're feeling stuck right now, if you're in a place that's dimming your light, I want you to think about these stories. I'm not telling you to quit your job or end your relationship tomorrow, but I am inviting you to consider the possibility that walking away might be the most powerful move you can make. It's scary, yes, but on the other side of that fear is freedom, growth, and the chance to build a life that is truly your own. Thank you so much for watching. If this video resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more content like this. And I do love to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever had to walk away from something? What did you learn from it? Sharing our stories helps us all. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.